planet is going through this awakening. It's like early in the morning where it's been dark, and there's a point where it's just changed from night to day. The day is expanding, and it's now getting to the point where it's getting brighter and brighter, and everything that's hiding in the shadows are beginning to be exposed. As this light begins to shine brighter and brighter, and so many of the monsters that were going to get us turned out to be an old towel laying on the floor instead of a monster under the bed. When you have a new truth, it is impossible to go back to your old truth.
Welcome back to my podcast. Excuse me, I'm talking a little bit quieter at the moment because my baby son is sleeping in the next room, and so I don't want to wake him up. Anyway, my amazing guest is Jim Self, who I welcome back for the third time in this episode today. And every time I speak to Jim, I feel like there's more and more layers of the conversation that just keep getting deeper and deeper, and this is a very deep conversation today. It's phenomenal. Jim's amazing, and if there's one common theme that's coming out of these episodes and conversations I'm having, and especially if you're on this path of your own inward journey, awakening, is that we are in an extremely profound time in human history right now on the planet. And the more we become aware, the more we can start to see, I guess, the illusion around certain aspects of this and the self. It's quite phenomenal. And the only way we can get there is by going through our own journey ourselves. And it's one I've certainly on a path for a long time. And I love talking to people like Jim who break things down really well. So it's a wealth of information here, but also some real practical stuff of how we can apply it in our lives. But we get into some very deep topics as well, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Please be sure to leave a comment in YouTube. Let me know where you are in the world, and of course, if you're enjoying them, hit the subscribe and the like button as well, because it always continues to then help support this channel and allow it to reach more and more people, which is the goal. It's exciting. And as for myself, we got lots going on as well. If you want to join us at a future retreat, we're going to be in Croatia. We're going to be in Australia towards the end of year, in 2025 at this moment anyway. And yeah, events up and down the country. I'm chatting to Jim as well, and maybe even trying to bring him here in Australia in 2026 as well. But we'll see what happens. But anyway, much love from me. If you want to find what we're up to, links are below. Any support, and of course, if you enjoy the conversation, share it with a loved one, friend. Just help continue to get this word out. Much love from me, and see you soon. Jim, welcome back to the podcast, sir. Nice to see you.
Great. My pleasure, and enjoy spending the time.
It's the third podcast that you've come on over probably the period of the last 12 months. And I feel like each conversation is built upon each other, and speaking to you off air, then I'm excited to go into a few topics that we were discussing off air, which would be around the Ascended Masters and Archangels and the presence that's ever present, as you spoke to, and also around where we place our attention and intention that supports that, because I certainly went through life not aware where my attention was being placed, or certainly my attention was going in the wrong areas of my life, and not really understanding the intention behind it and the force that's there. And I feel so many of us can feel stuck in that paradigm and don't know how to get out of it, because what's waiting beyond or what's ever present is so beautiful. And I was just saying, like, I feel like I'm living such a blessed life at the moment. I only wish that for everyone else. So I think these are great conversation topics and set the scene for everyone. So where should we go from there, Jim? How would you like to start?
Well, let's start with that concept of intention and attention, because everything is about you. You are the center of your movie. You are the lead actor, actress in your play. Period. Right there, period. Everything else around you is the props and the backdrops and the sub-actors in their play that are bumping into your play. And so society and how things happen and what people believe. But we get distracted by all the noise and the motion. And then we get distracted by those who teach us. I'm being really respectful. The mom, dad, teacher, minister who say, this is the truth, or this is how it works. And what we do is we just accept that as truth and then begin to live our life based on those concepts, those statements, those whatever they may be. And for the most part, we very seldom ever review those beliefs that we have. We don't go back to them. We just say, well, this is how it is, and we keep stumbling through life. And what's happening right now is there's a tremendous rebalancing that's going on, and we'll get there in a little while. But what happens is when you start to realize, and this is where people are, something's not right. There's more. Either there's more something bigger, or there's more this engagement of humanity to itself is not respectful. There's no dignity. There's abuse and punishment and those kind of things. Something's not right. And that's very much the kind of the theme of what's happening on the planet. The planet is going through this awakening. All the planets are going through this awakening. But what happens is you begin to say, what do I want? Now, whether you use those words or not, you start to say, I want something different, or I think it should be this way. And when a person can begin to get very present, like take a breath, sit back and say in the center of their head, what do I want? How would I like this to be? What kind of life do I want to live? It's at that minute you can have a intention in present time. I would like X. And then the next part is really the part that is the simplest and the hardest, is holding your attention on your intention. I want to have a nice day today. And I say, yes, this is going to be how it is. And then I turn on the news, or then I have an argument, or then whatever it is. And all of a sudden my attention on good things simply get consumed by the noise all around us. So this ability to begin to step back and say, what is it that I want? And that's not I want a big car, I want a new house, I want a trophy husband, wife. No, it's really like, what's life all about? And what I'm watching is that question is beginning to be in everybody's space. It's just as if it's there and being asked with no force, no push. It's just this sense that there's got to be more. And I hear that all over the world, in the podcasts and the traveling we do and the conferences. People want respect and dignity, kindness, joy. They want ease and buoyancy in their life. They want to laugh. And they want to co-create with others and enjoy the process of the creation. Mm-hmm. It's really pretty simple. But what has been happening is it's can I define what do I want? It's funny, in Mastering Alchemy and in the mastery class, which is, 1,000 people, the question is, what do you want? And amazingly, virtually nobody could answer the question. Now, oh yeah, I'd like a new car, but what do you want? And the answer always kind of came back to, I want to be happy. But how do you make it happen? What is the place what's your intention to be happy? And then how do you engage with your attention to make it happen? And it's a funny process because we're so conditioned to that third dimensional life that we've all grown up. Hurry up, go fast, push on things. I don't have enough. I have limitations. I'm not good enough. That we allow all that to get in the way unconsciously because we never examined, am I okay? Am I capable? Do I know how to do things? We grow up, in my life, I grew up to this day, the only word I can really identify with my father was stupid. You're so stupid. Why are you stupid? Whether you believe it or not, it hurts, And it also begins to be the belief that is unconscious, other people's statements. But when you get to this place where we're talking, and if you can step back, take a breath, get in the middle of your head, get grounded, like all the wonderful work you do with people, just like become present. Are you really stupid? Are you really not capable? Are you really, I'm not okay? And if you just begin to ask that question in present time, you realize it's impossible to be not okay. It's impossible. We give a lot of attention and we try really hard at being not okay. We work at being not okay. And sometimes it's a point now where you just take a breath and it's like, no, you can't be not okay. So what's the alternative you'd like to live? Begins to be the question.
And like you say, if we don't know what that is, we're naturally going to keep gravitating back to the old paradigm. And in a world that is so like constantly vying for our attention, there is so many distractions in our world. We're not giving ourselves any space, any time to, like you say, slow down and get to that still point where it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me give you an example of how a belief system gets in the way of virtually everything about your life. Okay. So if you were to ask 100 people on the street, is there anything, what is time? And what they're all going to say in one way or the other, it's past, present, future, and then you die. It's linear. It just goes one way, and that's how it is. And this past thing, well, that's too bad. Once you did what you did, you're stuck with it. That is not true. Not true. Now, wait, how can I sit here and say not true, but if you just stop and say, have you ever examined the statement that time is just what was defined? So here, let me give you an example why what's happened, and you're not able to ever change your past. It's how it is, fixed. That's what you did. You're stuck with it. Not true. So let me define the past. The past is made up of two things. One is the information. So when I was about 5, I was in a store and picked up a candy bar because I wanted to eat the candy bar. Now, I had no boundaries, no concepts of doing something right or wrong. So I opened it up, I took a bite. The store owner started screaming at me. My mother lost it. And clearly I was stealing. I was stupid. You should know better. I'm 5 years old. And all that energy just came pouring into my space. Now, pause, because every one of you listening has the exact same story somewhere. May not have been the candy bar. And so what happens is I'm bad and I steal things. And clearly it happened and I can't change that. So, but the part that's correct is I can't change the event. But here I am at my age, and all through my life, I'm going to make this story up. I've been worried about stealing more things, and I've been worrying about not being good, and I'm worried about people finding out I'm not a good person, and figure out that in each of our lives. And so we carry this set of beliefs and self-punishments because we're just simply saying an event happened and therefore I can't change it, and this is what I am. But the second piece of the past is really very simple. Let me talk to everybody. Find the event that you hold yourself hostage to. I'm not smart. I don't know how to speak. I'm not capable of doing things. I'm stupid. Whatever it is, take a breath and then just kind of ask yourself in present time, right now, is that true? Is what I did in my past, stealing my candy bar, directing how I live my life right now? Does it have any value in my life to hold on to that thought, hold on to the guilt, the blame, the sarcasm that I hold in my space Does holding all of that have anything to do with me right now? And the answer is 100% no. My candy bar event has nothing to do with my life right now. Am I going to steal something else? Am I going to, be a bad person? But how much do we carry around a belief system defined on an event that we are now holding ourselves hostage to and using it to frame our life within? Does that make any sense?
Totally.
And so if you can get right into the present moment and then just simply say, am I this bad person? Or am I what the teacher told me? Or am I what my mother used to call me? Am I that person in fact? And you realize, no, you're not. The other thing is that an awful lot of the messaging that we get has nothing to do with us at all. Nothing. So did my father have a bad lifetime many moments? And did he look at me and say, well, you're stupid? Now, did it have anything to do with what I was doing, or was this a personality of somebody else? And they kept handing me this gift, the gift. Here, you're stupid. Here, you're stupid. Don't you ever get anything right? The piece that is really important in terms of attention and intention is we hold on to this gift that somebody else gave us, and we ask the worst possible question we can ask: what did I do wrong? And if you look at that question, very seldom do you ever get really a good answer, because it's somebody else's opinion that's been thrown into your energy field, and you're trying to solve something that's not yours. And so this ability to begin to recognize I'm carrying around a lot of stuff, beliefs, thoughts, other people's perceptions that I'm holding myself hostage for. If I could simply recognize myself in present time right now and ask the question, yes, that event happened, but does it have any bearing on how I want to demonstrate my life right now? And this is where those tools we'll talk about in a minute, but where all of a sudden you're able to recognize with a handful of simple concepts, I can let this go. And it's gone. It just simply disappears from your space if you understand you have the capacity to live in the present moment and create the life you want to live right now, because it all happens right now.
So it really can be that simple in terms of letting that belief go. That's
Yes.
incredible, isn't it? And
Yeah.
I still ponder on my life and how my belief systems, the gifts, and I see them as gifts, because without it, I don't think I would have had the motivation to really start to look in a different direction or within myself, because I was always looking externally to solve it.
Sure.
Yeah.
But think about all the people who can't get to that place to where they can stop and realize this isn't even mine. And I'm letting it control and drive my life. And it's quite often structured in such a way that this is where it gets challenging energetically in the body, is, see, thoughts are electrical and emotions are magnetic. That's really a big piece of information, but just keep it simple. And so you have a thought, and the thought is, I'm not okay. And as soon as you have that thought, there's an emotion that comes up every time you have that thought. Your energy drops, you kind of go sideways. But what happens is that emotion is the emotion of I'm not okay is a lesser emotion than the beauty, the grace, the wonderfulness that you in fact are. You drop down, oh, I'm not okay. And then what happens is you start to think that thought over and over. And every time you think the thought, it's like creating an electrical motor. You begin to wrap the thought around the emotion. I'm not okay. I'm not okay. I'm not okay. And you create this tremendous electromagnetic field by your thoughts on that emotion. And if you took it and, if you begin to notice it, it drives your life. It starts to be in the unconscious, subconscious part of you. I'm not okay. I'm never going to succeed. I don't know what to do. Nobody likes me too, by the way. That's a pretty damaging construct. And it's virtually all based on somebody else's opinion. And more often than not, where their opinion came from was in a moment you were exploring yourself, where you were trying to figure it out, where you reached over and grabbed an apple as you were in the cart with your mother, and it was a great, pretty red apple. And then you got slapped and yelled at, and how dare you? And then you go live your life from all of that energy as a platform going forward. What if you could take that all out? What if it never belonged to you? And that's the place where the opportunities are now starting to present themselves for many.
What do we get out of it by staying in that magnetic charge? Like, what is keeping us there? The fact that
the belief.
So I guess the question would be that there's something around. We keep ourselves stuck in those perpetuated patterns, and quite often people don't want to change, even though they say they do. They kind of resist the change, moving into it. Like, what is keeping them holding on to that, do you feel?
So a lot of it, let's call it filters, so that that little kid that gets yelled at is quite often what happened. The mother, it's the same thing that happened to the mother somewhere in her lifetime. But what happens is we get told we're not okay, in whatever fashion, and then for whatever reason, we just simply accept it. It must be true because the big one is telling me I'm not okay. And on top of it, they're throwing a lot of energy at me that I don't understand, but it knocks me back and it makes me feel bad. Somebody else getting in my space. And I don't have the perception and the wisdom as a little kid to discern. But I can never go there again. I can't do that again. I really am going to get yelled at if I do this again. And so we create this belief system, and then every time we bump into something, we wind up recognizing, oh, if I go a little further, I might get yelled at again. And so we create this construct in this emotional field that basically holds us in one place. And see, this is where the past begins to be a very difficult controlling element of how we experience ourselves. So let me reframe time. Time is time is a construct. It's an application. It's not a fixed concept. When you begin to play in time, there's 5 different constructs of present time. Present time can be applied and used 5 different ways. Now, without getting into that deeply, but linear time is something that basically allows us to know where we've been and the events that we've had. Now, if you're going to remove the emotion and you can remove when I was getting yelled at for doing something and I could realize what I was doing is I was playing with my blocks and I was figuring out how to make them work. And then somebody said to me, that's stupid. Don't do that. What a waste of time. Or I'm the little kid that draws all the time and makes orange elephants. And the teacher says, don't you know there's no orange elephants? What's wrong with you? And you're drawing out of the lines in addition. How do you recover from that? But see, what was great about that kid is they were a tremendous artist, but they never picked up the crayon again. And see, so we're stuck in that belief, I don't know how to draw. And I mean, this is an example that I've used and seen happen all the time. And I say, well, you stopped drawing then. Well, I still doodle a little, but I'm not okay. Are you any good at it? No, I'm not really good at it. And, they're stunning work they do. but they can't connect the fact that I know how to draw. I can do this, because we're still holding that picture over here, that filter that says I'm not okay. I'm not approved of. People don't care for what I do. So I better not go there anymore, is what we say.
They slip, yeah.
And that's how we create that.
They're really slippery beliefs, aren't they? They're like weeds that you keep trying to pull up all the time, you know. Is that why then, like, I'd love to mention, or you speak a little bit about something that could help people. And I mentioned off air that I've been practicing your rose technique. And the first thing you said, it's a symbolic rose of attention and intention and a belief. And would you mind just speaking to that a little bit? I think people will get a lot out of that.
Sure. So one of the things, to answer the question you asked first, though, is how do I get out of this? I've got this belief system. I'm not okay. I don't have a mechanism to get out of it, is really what we're saying, is I don't know how to get out. And because it happened in the past, it's fixed, and therefore I can never change it. So that begins to be another anchor in the belief system. So what if you had a concept, a tool that allows you to dismantle that belief system? Now, in mastering alchemy, this rose is absolutely one of the 5 basic tools of the whole process of becoming ascended as you want to become ascended, as a, joyful, happy. How do I get out of I'm not okay? And if I can bring myself into the present and recognize that that event that happened in the past at 40, 50, 60, 70 years old, I'm still holding on to, and I'm hostage to. That event doesn't allow me to experience myself as I would like to. Now, it's unconscious for the most part. So what if you had a concept, a tool to play with energetically that would allow you to get out of the box that you're in, would allow you to change the filter? Now, I just started setting it up by saying the past, what happened when you were 5 years old and all of the punishment that got thrown into your space, and you're still thinking about it or avoiding it, it's still in your space. But you're 40, you're 50, you're 30, whatever. And it has a point that doesn't, it becomes a restriction that doesn't allow you to draw orange elephants again if you wanted to. If you said to that little kid who's now 50, draw me an orange elephant, they would go into a response to be like, well, no, I can't do that. And all they're doing is responding as a 5-year-old kid being told no. So this concept is, what a mental image, or create a mental image picture of a red rose. Now see, just by asking you that, there it was. You know what red roses look like. Blue rose, green rose, doesn't matter, but a rose. And so kind of have a mental image picture of it. And what happens is, if you take that rose and you basically give it authority to overrun a lesser energy. And that's what is so amazing about the rose. You know about the rose in terms of, it's a part of the Mary Magdalene nature of the Christian church. It's tied to Mother Mary. It's a feminine construct, and it has a lot of power to basically eliminate whatever is lesser than that rose that's in your space. So the mechanics is, I'm going to take this rose that I'm mentally creating, and I'm going to put the I'm not okay picture. And if you're playing with it right here, get a simple one. Don't go to your worst nightmare. Play with simple. They told me I couldn't draw orange elephants. I'm going to try to draw an orange elephant, but I'm going to take the rose and I'm going to put that teacher who said I can't draw orange elephants, I'm going to put the teacher in a rose. And then I'm going to explode the rose like it's a fireworks. Really simple mechanics. Because that teacher is the energy that's still in your space. I mean, when you think about it, somebody says, I don't like you, you're a bad person. 50 years later, if I said, did anybody ever tell you they didn't like you and you're a bad person? Yeah, Mrs. Jones. It would just pop right up in your space. Does that make sense? So where you have somebody has told you you're not okay, you can't draw orange elephants. As soon as I say that, I'm going to assume you have a memory of somebody telling you you're not okay. Would you like to remove their energy from your space in a very simple manner? Take a breath, create a mental image picture of a rose in your mind, and then just move it right out 12 inches, 16 inches, 30 centimeters in front of you, and put that person's energy in that rose. Now, all you do is commanding the rose, collect up all of their energy, and the rose will simply say, I'm done, very quickly. You can think about it for a minute, but it'll say, I'm done, and then explode the energy. Now, if you play with that tool off and on, off and on, off and on over the course of a week or a couple of days, what happens is you begin to not only remove the energy, but you also start to remove the memory that was really had nothing to do with you in the first place. You were setting out to have a great day coloring orange elephants, and somebody got in your space. And so all you're doing is saying, thank you very much, but I'm going to give you back your energy, and I'm going to go draw an orange elephant. Now, if you allow it to be that simple and not overthink it and just play with it, I'm going to put it in a rose, explode it, put it in a rose, explode it. A couple of things happen. If I said to you, how's your orange elephants? Oh, they're great. I'm having fun drawing them. Well, you're not supposed to draw them. Don't you remember that? And amazingly, the person will say, I don't remember that. I've always drawn orange elephants. And so a lot of the energy that doesn't belong to you, the energy that says you can't do it, you're not okay, you're stupid, begins to simply dissipate because it's not yours. And underlying all of that is you cannot be not okay. It's impossible to be not okay, but we work really hard at it.
Love it. Thank you for sharing that. That's so helpful, and I'd encourage everyone to truly practice it. It's it's fabulous.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah. I'm not selling Mastering Alchemy, but if you go to masteringalchemy.com, that's a free tool. There's a whole bunch of free tools. How do you basically get into present time? How do you define your space? Please use them for your own value.
You have to take steps, don't you, and take action. Otherwise, you just become a podcast junkie, listening to information and never actually applying anything. It's like, no, that's not its purpose. It's to inspire you to take action. That's for sure. So let's pivot the conversation then, because I think this is a great segue, because we spoke off air as well, and I mentioned at the beginning about ascended masters, archangels, even the Merkaba, which I've been really drawn to over the last especially few months, even though it's been on my awareness for quite some time, and exploring these. And is it as simple for people? Because I know people that listen to this, and I'm always mindful of conversations I have, because I want people to have their own experiences, and I never want to impose other people's experiences on theirs, but also inspire them to what's possible and explore these concepts that we speak of. And is it really as simple as where we're placing our attention, our intention, and our beliefs behind it, that is creating our reality then, to then explore these deeper spiritual concepts that are out there, and these conversations that I've been having, and that's the gateway into these things?
Yeah. It absolutely is. I mean, I can say it in these ways. You're the creator and you're the creation. You think something up, and law of attraction, we can touch on that again if you want another minute, but law of attraction works flawlessly. What you put your attention on, the universe who adores you says, will provide for you. But what happens is it's like people saying affirmations. I'm good, I'm good, I'm good, I'm good, I'm good. It's going to be a great day. This is going to be wonderful. And the very last statement they say is, but. The universe stops and says, when you get past the but, I'll be happy to create for you, with you, what you're asking for. So what we do is, see, the universe doesn't understand English, French, and Australian very well. What the universe understands is vibrations. And so you know what you feel like when you're happy and enjoying yourself and having fun, and you know what you feel like when you're depressed, angry, and resentful. Really two very different vibrations. And so that place where you begin to hold, I'm not okay, is really very full. But what we seem to do is we take I'm not okay and we don't like it, so we stuff it back here in our backpacks because I don't want to deal with it anymore. And you make a deal with it. You say, I won't go over there where I got yelled at for stealing a candy bar if you don't come out and remind me about it. The universe says, okay. So what we do is we start narrowing ourselves tighter and tighter and tighter because I keep holding my attention on I'm not okay. The universe says, I'll give you more of the thing that draws your attention. The universe isn't giving you good or bad. It's just simply, I want a sharp stick in the eye. The universe will create the energy for you to have your creation. But when you begin to start to recognize, like using that rose we just talked about, and you start to bring yourself into a present time space, and you begin to put your attention on what you actually want, everything comes to you. You're the creator and you're the creation. And it's all about you. It's not about what your mother or the teacher or your father thought about you in that one moment that you're still carrying around 30 years later.
Makes total sense. So what are the roles then of the ascended masters and archangels and guides and those that are come into our presence? If we start to place our attention and that cooperation with them, because they're certainly becoming in my reality, I'm happy to share that.
Yes.
And like I said, I kind of walk around hugging myself half the time because it's like, wow, this is all possible. What people have spoke about in books and texts and things I've read for many years. It's like once you start having visceral experiences, it opens up even more questions, like now.
Yeah. And now is a particularly interesting time period now. I mean, not just the proverbial now, but this period of time that we're going through. Because to the to the ascended masterpiece, what's happening right now, it's like it's a morning, early in the morning where it's been dark, and there's a point where it's just changed from night to day. And when you're sitting there watching that time, whether it's, 4 o'clock in the morning or whatever time it might be, it gets a little lighter. And then it gets a little lighter, but you can't really distinguish from one minute to the other. It just starts to get lighter. And if you close your eyes for 30 seconds and open them, it's lighter than it was 30 seconds ago, but you can't watch light change over 30 seconds. So one of the things that's happening right now on the whole planet and in the solar system, the day is expanding, and it's now getting to the point where it's getting brighter and brighter, and everything that's hiding in the shadows are beginning to be exposed. And all of the lies and distortions that said you're not okay, you can't draw well, you're stupid, you don't have any value, all of those that we hold on to are starting to come to the surface and starting to be examined in such a way that this isn't true. I'm okay. And so part of that is with the Archangelics, the Lords of Light, the Ascended Masters. They've always been there, but you haven't been able to really see them because we've been so noisy, so caught up in I'm not okay, that we really haven't given it attention. But right now, as this light begins to shine brighter and brighter, and so many of the monsters that were going to get us turned out to be an old towel laying on the floor instead of a monster under the bed. And when you have, one of the really great parts about everything we've said so far is when you have a new truth, it is impossible to go back to your old truth. So when you use that rose and you take, Mrs. Jones in third grade out of your space, Mrs. Jones is gone. And you have now more room to begin to perceive what was not allowed to be perceived in that space before. And so right now, as that light begins to shine, you start to find many, many people are realizing they're thinking differently. They're beginning to have concepts of well-being. They're beginning to recognize the world can be better. It doesn't have to be this way. And so that God, consciousness, all that is, including the Archangelics and everybody else, are beginning to become conscious to you where they've always been there, but playing the game of third dimension, we kind of separated ourselves from that. And so when somebody like you comes along and you're having a grand time doing what you're doing, because you're creating for yourself, you're enjoying what you're doing, you're radiating that light out to others. Others are going, I want some of that. And you all of a sudden become very magnetic, attractive. And they start to play and you start to say, this is how it works. And they say, yeah, that's how it works. And so now two or more begin to be gathered in this same space, all having fun. And every time you get into that group space that you do so well in what you do, and people start to align with one another, everything lesser than that rose, everything lesser than I'm okay, simply begins to fall away now much easier than it has in the past. And so if archangelics or lords of light or ascended masters or I want more is the expression you're exemplifying, the universe says, I'll be happy to give you what you put your attention on. And it's this little thought in your head. It doesn't show up as, I'm Metatron, and I'm here to coach you through this game. Yeah, for some people it kind of does, but for the most of us, it doesn't work that way. But what happens is I all of a sudden start to have a different thought. I begin to have something that kind of says, just a And then the turns into a thought. And the thought gets a little more dense and turns into an idea. The idea gets a little more dense, turns into a concept. And I'm liking the concept, and all of a sudden there's a yes. And the yes begins to create the moment, the movement, the momentum for the apple you wish to have in your hand created. And so it's that excitement that you express really well. And in that, all of the I want more just magnetically starts coming to
Wow. Is there a development within the infrastructure of the body that then becomes more receptive to these energies and frequencies? Because I feel that's what's happened on my journey as I continue to lean in.
Yeah.
And I can't even put into words. I'm still trying to figure it out. And I feel that's why the sacred geometry images are coming forward now of the Merkaba or the octahedron, and there's a direct relationship of actually not bringing them into form, but like a density to it or an activation. I don't know what the right terminology is, but through please.
And bringing them into form, you're correct. You're starting to put density to these things. You're starting to have experiences, whether it's a feeling or it's a thought. Thought form is a density. And so all of that begins to be more and more in and around. You have multiple bodies. You don't have just a physical body. You have a mental, emotional body. In where most people talk about it is two bodies. It's not two bodies. It's one body. And when you start to be able to be in present time and have a thought and then manage the emotion you wish to attach to the thought, all of a sudden that mental, emotional body begins to do what it does. And one of the things it begins to do is in present time, it begins to discern, is this my truth? Is this something I wish to engage with, or is it something that I can allow to pass by? You don't go into shoot, ready, aim, and into reaction and into anger, into throwing energy. You actually begin to allow a whole lot of noise to pass you by because it's no longer yours to put your finger into. So that mental emotional body is one. There's an etheric body, and that's the one you're talking about. And the etheric body is very much attached to a physiology in the physical form called the fascia system within the body. And fascia is one complete, without any disconnections, system that is in the body. And it allows, when your thinking begins to be, I'm not okay, that fascia tightens up. Muscles get sore, you get tense in the body. And so as you begin to manage that mental, emotional body better, and you begin to start to play in this etheric body, then things begin to happen. And we'll get to your Merkaba in a second. But one of the main things that happen is you begin to find that you start to access what's called, and many people refer to this without a lot of knowledge, the unified field of consciousness. Okay? The unified field, the oneness of everything. Where we play in this human body, in this third dimensional game, we're disconnected from that unified field of consciousness. Now, we've done this to ourselves, and it's not a punishment. It's not bad. We kind of said, we're going to go play in a new game, and we came here to play in this new game. And we've been extraordinarily successful at playing third dimension. But it's time to go home. It's time to go home. And that's what's happening right now. So as that light begins to shine, that etheric body begins to be more in connection with the physical, mental, emotional field. And that etheric body is very connected to all the other bodies. The oversoul, the higher self, the Christed oversoul, all of that is you, but you're not being conscious of all of that. And so as you begin to play right here and you start to let go of more and more of the I'm not okay, and you start to begin to recognize this isn't how the world's supposed to be, and you start to find yourself stumbling into new truths that just eliminate the old truths, you're starting to begin to be aware of the archangelics, the lords of light, all of that information. Now, to your question, some will present as Archangel Michael or Mother Mary or Yeshua or Cthulhu. But to a great extent, what's happening is when you ask the question, the answer lies right where the question is asked. And so consciousness just simply becomes conscious. It's like, oh, I guess I could do that. That would work. Where did that light bulb moment come from that we've all experienced many times? Right now, that light bulb moment is coming more and more. But if you treat it as I'm beginning to have communication with consciousness, with God, with ascended masters, however you wish to label it to support yourself, and then allow it to be, take a breath, get quiet, and begin to have conversation. And you're going to find that you're going to have more and more answers as you move through your day. And if you really want to play with those ascended masters, in some cases, be very specific, and they begin to show up in different ways.
Wow. There's a lot in that. That's incredible. Thank you.
There's
There's
a lot.
Please, yeah.
Yeah, it's all about you, 100% about you. And the minute you can, like where you're playing Guy, and you begin to get so excited about all the things you're doing, you don't have time for the noise, the politics, the problems. It just simply, and everything seems to be working out. That's the exciting part, is when you're excited, when you're in love, when you're in joy, when you like yourself, I'm okay, you begin to just step into places fully knowing it's going to work, with the self-judgment and the doubt not there as it used to be.
That's exactly right. I couldn't even plan any of this at all. And it feels like And it's interesting, because I like yourself, we spoke off air about actually observing what's going on in the world right now and the planet, and I kind of really do feel like I'm just so engrossed in my own way of contribution, but to myself, to my family, to others, and so kind of over here, I don't even really feel or see. I just observe. I go, oh, isn't that interesting over there? Wow, they're really playing, like you say, playing that game. And my
Yeah.
question to you is on that then, does that really mean that our reality will become our reality no matter what is going on the planet? Or like, because we all get affected in certain ways, don't we? Like, COVID obviously affected us all. But even saying that, I had the birth of my first child, and it was a blessing. I was able to be in a space where we could just be in our own little cocoon and didn't really get involved in anything that was going on out there. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So this time frame we're in right now is very fluid. See, there's another whole component of this, which is really very fundamental, and it cuts across everything, and it's called masculine and feminine. And so as soon as you hear that, people go, oh, bodies, men, women, psychology, men are from Mars, women are from Venus, all that kind of. But in real terms, everything is about motion, flow, structure. So if I defined it as masculine, which is not true, it's just use a reference. Masculine energy is straight lines and angles, structure. Feminine energy is swirls and motion and possibilities, but there's no structure. But what happens is if you want water and you pour it onto the table, it doesn't have any structure. It flows all over the table. So, but once you say, here's a glass, and you pour the water, the flow gets contained in such a way that it serves the purpose you're intending it for. And so this aspect of masculine and feminine is beginning to present in a way where right now we're in this transition. And so we've had a period of time, third dimension, particularly the last 80 years, where there's been very rigid structure. This is the truth. This is how you play. This is how you pledge allegiance to your flag. And you say these words, and over and over and over, the repetitive programming of a truth, not a good or bad truth, a truth, just simply starts to be built into this is how we do it. And in a lot of ways, that has always been not the Pledge of Allegiance, the whole construct has been programming, how program works. So if I can convince you, if you do this, you dig all these holes for me because we're going to have beautiful plants and I'm going to sit back and watch you do all the work, there's something mismatching in that process. And that's the way the game is being played. Power over, control, domination, duality, right, wrong, good, bad, should, shouldn't. All of that game doesn't lead to equality, and it doesn't lead to abundance. And so for 80 years and more, we've been learning a lot as human beings, and it's got tighter and tighter and more restrictive. And the wealthy got more wealthy and the poor got much more poor. And it's no longer acceptable. It's never been acceptable. But right now, this shift and transition is opening up. So my masculine and feminine is the structure of the rigidity in the darkness. Don't look over here. There's nothing to see over here. Don't go over here. The message has been. All of a sudden, there's a lot of light shining into that shadow. And people are going, wait a minute, this is crazy. Take one of the current statements of the day in the United States, where Trump just hands a $400 million plane from a Middle Eastern country and says, oh, it's okay. And then I'm just going to keep it for my own use at the end of the day. It's like, wait, something's not right about that. If that, using that example, not being a pro or con politically here, but what happens is people are starting to say, this isn't right. And that's this light that's coming in. But what's happening is it's a very fluid transitional space. The structures are all breaking down. And the new level of light that's coming in is very fluid. And for the most part, the 3D people playing in 3D is confusing because I don't know what to do, is the messaging in the day. But where we're speaking is if you can get into a place where you can step back and then just ask yourself, do I have any ability to fix, change, or influence all of those things that I'm looking at? For the most part, the answer is no. I can empathize with a circumstance in Ukraine, but can I really do anything about that situation? And the answer is no. So in a way, and as much empathy as I have for that, walk away. Because if I leave my thoughts scattered all over the inequities of life, all I am is the fluidness of the water flowing across the table with no capacity to influence or create the kind of world I would like to really have. And so when you begin to say, what do I want and how can I get it? And it's all about joy and ease and buoyancy. It's like this whole octave has been created where you just step out of 3D into this higher octave. And the higher octave feels good. That sense of ease and joy begins to be the nature of the construction of the octave that you're in the process of creating with so many hundreds of people that you play with.
I love how you broke that down. That really resonates. So the question that was coming through for me with that is, what are your thoughts on it? Do you feel that if there's enough of us focusing on ourselves and actually becoming much more heart-centered, bringing in those feminine qualities along with the masculine and equaling everything out and starting to play in a different vibration, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, that will there be a conscious shift in time if there's enough of us leaning into these ideas and exploring them?
Yes. And basically, I'm going to say there's enough of us right now. Now, that doesn't mean, oh, good, we're successful, I'm going to go hang out at the beach. No, a lot of work to be done. But this nature is, I'm comfortable in saying, if it was, are we going to go to destruction? Or are we going to go to success? We're in the success mode. Now, if you look at 3D as the game of 3D, it could be very terrifying. It could be threatening democracies and authoritative dictators. And, the biggest item in the U.S. budget, for example, is military defense. There's something wrong with this repetitive pattern that we're playing in. But see, if you give attention to that, you're not giving attention to the joy and the ease and the beauty. And see, this is where all the creation is happening over here in each one of us becoming happy, becoming comfortable, recognizing I'm okay. It's in that space where you start to bump into people like you who say, I have something to offer. And people say, I'll come. And it's a magical space where, you start creating and they come one by one and 10 by 10 and hundreds by hundreds and thousands by thousands. And they have a great party and somebody's going to go, who put this all together? And you're going to be off doing it in another part of your universe for the next hundreds and thousands. That's happening all over the world. It's happening inside so many people that are basically saying, I can make a difference. The game is won, but it's going to be a journey to get to that end point, which is actually the beginning point where we all want to be in the first place.
No, thank you. I love it. And because ultimately, I think it's so easy to feel disempowered when we put our attention, like you say, on that 3D and on everything that can be happening and get drawn into that. And when we turn it back, it becomes very different.
Let me go give you some information that you asked for about the Merkabahs.
Okay.
You asked a question earlier about, which is a construct of sacred geometry, just being there's 6 different constructs that have a very specific alignment. And the alignment is in the sacred geometry, take a cube, for example, All of the edges are the same length. All of the faces have the same area. All of the angles are the same angle, and the structure fits perfectly inside a sphere. There's only 6 things that do that. And one of them is not even repeatable yet because it's kind of in another dimensional space. But the other 5, the octahedron, 4-sided pyramid on the top, 4-sided pyramid on the bottom. Star tetrahedron is part of that. The cube, the icosahedron, the dodecahedron, and which one did I just miss? One other. They all meet that description. What happens is there is a unified field of consciousness, very uniformly constructed, that allows for expansion and building very smoothly as you go ahead and construct. Now, sacred geometry. But the 2 pieces that we play with particularly is the definition of a Merkaba is that geometry spinning in 2 counter-rotating fields simultaneously inside that sphere where all the edges, all the points are touching. The octahedron is something that is in the aura around you, and it's always been there. It's just not utilized in a way that makes any sense, or most people are not even aware of it. And so this is basic level 1 of mastering alchemy. What happens is, and this is where we kind of play with that rose too. So how do you create this geometry? So if you were to put a rose out in front of you at the edge of the aura is if you stick your arm straight out in front of you and turn your palm facing you, plus or minus 1 or 2 inches is where your aura is. That goes all the way around you, and it goes all the way above you. When you start to build that symmetrical octahedron, you wind up putting a point in front of you, a point behind you, point to the left, point to the right, one above you and one below you. Now, then you connect the lines. Now, what happens, though, when you connect the lines, it's not a perfect symmetry anymore. It's longer at the top and bottom than it is on the sides. And so when you start to spin this field, this geometric field, you basically, the aura doesn't adjust, but the octahedron adjusts. And so it moves out to where it's completely symmetrical in terms of the definition of the sacred geometry. But why that's important in the simplest way is it's an antenna. It basically opens up the mental processes to hear, see, feel, ties very much into something that people don't understand. There's something called the Eye of Horus, which is a place in the pineal 6th chakra, 7th chakra alignment, that when that gets turned on, all of your psychic spiritual abilities start to perform as knowingness. You just know. And that's what we've been talking about. All of a sudden it's like, oh, I got a new idea. It's that antenna begins to have a broadcasting range that's much more into that unified field of consciousness. If you play with that octahedron in such a way, and there's an instruction that we give for this, if you turn it 45 degrees to this way and 45 degrees to this way, all this, and you make a couple of adjustments, you create the star tetrahedron. It's a mechanical process of evolution. It's not just a thing here or a thing there, because each one of these geometries are nested in the next geometry.
Yeah, that makes sense. Wow.
And so this, and then that Merkaba, what happens when you build that sphere expands further out, and you've just opened up an entirely new field of consciousness to yourself. And that star tetrahedron does multiple things. But in this case, the value piece is the antenna.
Thank you. And the star tetrahedron be in the Merkaba?
The Merkaba is two counter-rotating fields. See, the octahedron has two counter-rotating fields. If you take a star tetrahedron and you hold it in your hand, just instead of the point to the point, you hold it in your hand, and you look at all the edges, you have a cube. The cube is right there if you connect all the points. So you have a geometry within a geometry, and the cube becomes a really valuable piece of energetic construction. You remember Star Trek, and used to have the holodeck. They would go into this room and they'd say, "Make me a beach," and this beach would appear. The cube is very much that in relationship to your unified consciousness. It's the geometric field that allows for you to begin to imagine, create, and manifest. Now, are you going to get a beach today because now you know that? No. But are you going to be able to use that to discern how to create what I want? Which is where we began.
Wow. Jim, I feel like I could talk to you all day, and I'm running out of time here in Australia. I just want to say thank you. I really appreciate you coming on, the time you give and the information you share. Yeah, it's truly appreciated. And I have no doubt every time I release an episode with you, Jim, people resonate with it. They take it on board, and I always get tremendous feedback. And today was fabulous. Thank you so much, mate.
Great. My pleasure. And like I said earlier, again, not selling this, but Mastering Alchemy, a lot of these pieces are free. Just go there and start to figure out how to use them.
So there'll be links in the show notes as well. So the website, masteringalchemy.com?
.com. Yeah. .com. Great. Guy, keep doing what you're doing. It's really important. And you're having a lot of success.
No, thank you so much, mate. I appreciate it. Thank you, Jim.
Great. Blessings.